in the morning. I would like to call the meeting to order if somebody would like to approve the agenda.
So, go ahead. I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, at this time, if everybody would please rise and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this time, if we have anybody that would like to make a public comment, this would be the time to do so. And if not, I think we're up for JD. JD, when you're ready, we will take your engineer's update. Oh, now that one. My goat.
I know, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I can't.
Remember what they
I
tried.
don't listen. That's too far.
That's when that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame weekend is, I think. Morning, Chuck. Thank you.
Good morning, JD King, Page County Engineer. Sun shining. In case we don't see it, there's still above the clouds. Light rain, which we can use. The blades are out. We are hauling rock with 4 trucks. Had a crew putting some riprap at a slough spot or where part of the road slid away north of the landfill. And when the dirt gets better, we're going to dig that pipe out and relay it. Now, some might say this is backwards, but we're doing what we can right now. That's hauling a little riprap. Have the other crews pulling snow fence. We did use that snow fence roller that won a statewide award a couple years ago to roll that up in an efficient manner. We are continuing to cut some trees yet, although that is winding down. The shop, there's not much in the shop right now, which is good. Motor grader number 4 will be there for a service later this week. Our hoist has been down in the shop, and there's some parts coming in now. Wait for parts on the equipment door for the Hepburn shed, and they're starting to build the single axle truck. I'm not sure the details of that, but it's supposed to. Well, it was supposed to be delivered in March, but that's not going to occur. But we do have inklings that they, have parts of it at the factory now. Bridge or project development continues. Working on some bridges right now, still are. Have landowners from B61 are coming into the office this morning to sign up their piece of the right of way. So I have verbal commitments from all 4 landowners and papers signed by 3 of the 4. Our season's construction work, part of that is the hot mix resurfacing on Stanton Road from 2 up to the Montgomery County line. We're gonna have a pre-con on that the 4th of April. Brian indicated that they might start toward the end of April or early May, and that procedure is the code in place recycling. I spoke of that briefly last. So there'll be that phase of the work. Then the project will set a little bit, let that dry out. And then it'll come back with the couple layers of virgin material on top of that recycled part. And then the seal coat project, when I was talking to the contractor, he said he'll be either in, well, this is almost a duh thing, but not quite. He'll either be in the week before the 4th of July holiday or right after the 4th of July holiday. So he'll be in either before or after the holiday. Oh, yeah, I suppose you could say that. It could be any time, but this is directly after the holiday or before. I would like to schedule a public hearing for the budget and program for the 12th of April. That's a Tuesday. 9 o'clock, can we do it something like that?
Okay.
I need to be able to get with the newspaper today to have that scheduled in the proper manner. That's what I'm working on right now, finishing that up. I should have a draft next week for you to look at.
Okay.
And also attached, what I sent you last evening was a bridge or a map with a couple of bridges on in the southern part of the county. Disregard the 3 and the 4 identifiers. They don't mean anything. That's just how many markers I had on the map. But these are the relevant ones. B13 over in Buchanan Township. It's on a dirt road. It has a weight limit of 3 tons. The bridge consultant wanted us to close that. We also have sitting there ready to put in a couple of large pipe. So that bridge will be, the old wooden bridge will be taken out and we'll put in this 2 large pipe substitute for that. The other bridge over south of Northborough on 320th Street, also a dirt between E and F Avenue. No, between D and E Avenue, excuse me. That's a bigger 3-span wooden bridge with rotted piling. I don't have a plan right now for that bridge. We'll have to check to see what the traffic is on it. Of course, with weight limits, that pushes away traffic. Traffic reduces, so it could be a challenge. Although hopefully before it was poor, there was enough traffic, over 25 vehicles a day. So we could bring in other money. Otherwise, it's our chronic problem with poor bridges is they're on dirt roads with not a lot of traffic. And then that limits our funding possibilities. And there's a Hungry Canyons Alliance meeting in Atlantic this Friday, the 1st of April. And I'll plan to attend that. You have questions for me?
Those tubes at Braddyville, are they going to be welded together or side by side?
They'll be 3 or 4 feet apart. Just a twin set of pipes. And in other words, similar to what we did up in the northern part of county on P Avenue, just half a mile south of the county line there. The bridge northwest of College Springs that the Jackson and the Griffins are interested in is too large of drainage area to put in those kind of pipes. However, the bridge on Kiwi, north of J52, that the Stevens are interested in, that is suitable for another set of pipes. Well, we don't have those purchased yet.
Is the pipe, how's it compared to the train cars? Is it cheaper?
Well, those are about the same price as the train cars. There weren't any train cars available, so they bent up and welded a big plate. And if we can replace bridges with large pipe, you know, even triples, that's still cheaper than rehabbing a bridge or, you know, replacing the bridge.
Hot mix, that is scheduled, told us where that is, but just as a reminder, if anybody is wondering on the seal coat, that's the J Road. And,
No, the seal coat project
that's
is,
just to finish up the hot mix.
no,
Okay.
they're two separate projects.
Okay.
When you have the asphalt, all mixed asphalt on the Stanton Road.
Right, on the Stanton Road.
The seal coat project is, we're putting another lift of seal coat or chips on T Avenue from Shamball
Yep, that's right.
north and Page Center Road.
Yes.
And that's to continue our good service on the projects we had done in 2017, 2018
Okay.
with the stabilized base.
Okay, gotcha.
Unlike what we did to Braddyville, where we did the project and just let it go to see how robust it is under quarry traffic. These two routes were cement stabilized and chip seal on the top of it. We're going to redo that to keep those up to, with the intention to keep that in better shape.
Okay. And of course, B61 is the
Is the
Buchanan.
bridge down on Buchanan, over Buchanan Creek on J53.
Right.
Wanting to do that ahead of the base stabilization project there.
Thank you.
And then we should be on schedule to let that project in July.
Okay.
At the DOT.
JD, I know a lot of times at the public hearings, we don't get much participation from the public. But on April 12th, have you given any consideration to maybe moving that to an evening time? Would that work in the schedule? And is there any value?
I mean, I can give it any time, just has to be done before the 15th.
Okay.
If you want to have it in the evening,
Is that when we talk about the 5-year plan, or?
yes,
I think that should be an evening if we can.
okay.
Yeah, if we can, I think that'd be good.
Switch.
And then maybe just switch our April meeting to that, our evening meeting. Would that work?
I think so.
So next week would be a day. and
Would be,
then-
yeah,
And then the
12, if that's suitable with everybody.
That's suitable to me.
Okay,
Just got to check with auditor.
is that suitable with you?
move the 5th meeting back to daytime and then the 12th to an evening.
At least give more people a chance to
Sure.
attend that. And then, has the DOT ever talked with us, or do you know how widely they've experimented with corn row snow fence? I saw
With what?
with corn row snow fence. I saw that north of Brake Saturday, and they had a big DOT sign. Are they doing that in many places?
We investigated that up in northeast Iowa when I was at Fayette County. And it works. I think it's kind of a look at me thing, you know, a little hype. But when I talk with the farmer, there's some complications because, so now they've got this little dab of corn on some bean ground they're gonna do in the next spring, and they've got their combine put away. They don't want to get it dirty for an acre of corn, and it sounds good, but it's maybe not quite as feasible as. And so I said, hey, I've got a bunch of Amish up here. They could go through and do it by hand and not get your machine all dirty, and we could shred the stalks later, and I didn't get much of that.
Well, I just never, have you ever seen that?
Yeah, it's common practice. The DOT has deals with landowners.
Yeah. And in that scenario, it's right next to Highway 71. I mean, looked like it made sense. I thought it was kind of cool.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's, you know, yeah, it's good for good for discussion. But there's some details that are problematic, I guess. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. Next item up on the agenda is to discuss approved upcoming repairs for the Page County West building. Just to give a little preface, had developed some major leaks last week on Tuesday during the rain. And so I pulled back the history on the building. Back in 2012 is when we put a new roof on that building. We used Midwest roofing, Midwest foam, Midwest ground pounders. They have had different names over the years, but they did that building in 12 in the spring. And then we had hail that year. They came back and redid it the same year in 12. And since then, it hasn't had anything except little, I don't think any repairs to the roof. Of course, as we know, last year we had the accident. So we went ahead and checked when we knew that we developed leaks. All of a sudden, called the insurance agent. They came in and did a quick look to see if they felt that any of the damage was caused, and no, it was just simply wear and tear on the foam and on the insulation. So at that time I contacted Integrity Construction out of Shenandoah, and then Midwest Custom Coatings out of Nebraska City, who did the original foam. Two different prices from Integrity. One was just a quick fix, just to seal up the leaks, and they're looking at just under $6,000, $5,987.04. And then the second estimate to do the whole roof and to reseal it using a silicone roof coating, $29,000. So I'll pass those two over. And then the second estimate is from, third estimate is from Midwest Custom Coatings, and they came and looked at it Sunday, and I talked to him on Sunday, and he said that it would be $11,300 to completely recoat that roof with another 10-year warranty. So we had just completed almost 10 years. The other warranty, the way the 10-year warranty stands up is if they come back and do an inspection and retreat in 5 years if they feel it's necessary. So the 10-year warranty isn't a true 10 years. I know there's several that use that product in the area. Shenandoah had a hailstorm a few years ago. We checked it in 18, I think that was, and it was not affected by that storm. So therefore they didn't do anything at that time. The insurance didn't offer anything. So I guess.
In your study, did you see what the 2012 job cost?
Yes, it was, the original was $9,360.
Okay.
So it's only up considering costs of things. And then when they came back in, they spent another $6,750 on the insurance claim. So.
Why do they think it just wore out in 10 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's going to be about every 10 years
Mm-hmm.
sort of situation.
Yeah. You know, the Integrity one, the 29,000 might have a longer life expectancy, but
Have to be 3 times longer.
But the problem is they still haven't used this product long enough to know if it's really going to, because the only experience I've seen with it so far is at the Methodist Church in town. We've only had it on now 2.5 years. So here's a list of all the major expenses. And this shows everything if you guys want to look at that. That west building, we haven't had, a lot of it's been little fixes. Biggest expense was when we built that ramp in front of the drive door entrance for a safety concern. Most of it is lighting, updating computers, updating security. We've not had any major repairs to that building, so to speak.
So what do we budget? Where's that budget line on maintenance for that building, or do we have one just for that building? or is it lumped together as maintenance for the county?
Yeah.
What is the rent that comes in every year? Isn't there rent on that building?
Mhm. Got, let's see, we'd have
Zion is
Zion and then the public
DHS.
DHS, yeah.
And we probably,
Hmm.
let's see.
Um, 5,000 under the, for next year, but we got 5,000 for the building maintenance.
Yeah, so you might have to do an amendment.
Yeah, yeah.
But we usually pay it out of that 98 cents that she.
Okay. Well, we need to do something. They're catching
Yes,
water in buckets.
yeah, it was dry Sunday when I went in there just to double check and everything. But they had 6 leaks is what we spotted on Tuesday afternoon. So we pick up approximately $8,100 in revenues, Jacob, it looks like, for that building.
And we probably, on that topic, probably should put on our agenda sometime a review of rents, because with the rent on the annex coming up, that's at a different rate, and I'm not sure, just get a history of where we've been on those rents, if they've remained static or how long they've been there.
How soon could that Nebraska City place do it?
Either one, it needs to be above 50 degrees at night. So it wouldn't matter which way we went. It's got to be warm at night so the building stays, that steel stays warm enough and that roof stays warm enough to where that stuff will work.
But they have production, I mean,
They have
give us in a line.
it, they can do it. He said probably it's going to be the tail end of April before we're going to be ready weather-wise, because it needs to stay that temperature for a few days. So,
Well, the $30,000, they'd have to last 30 years. So there's no way that makes sense.
Yeah, unless we had data that they do last
Yeah,
30
yeah.
years.
And even the last 30 years, you'd just be at the same place you are to start with. So, yeah, I guess,
So what's the name of the place in Nebraska City?
Midwest Custom Coatings.
Okay.
You know, and the only history I know about them, they've been in town or in the area for quite a few years. The dad is kind of semi-retired and the son is now kind of running the business. So it has stayed in the business. They apparently are doing pretty good. Integrity has got good backbones too, that family is. So either group, I wouldn't worry about them doing it and then not being around in 10 years to take care of it again. But going through the records, we have not had a lot of expense for that building except from hail damage when it did that. And then the insurance covered it that time.
So with this Midwest, if we award them the bid, do we need to put on our calendar to have them come back in 5 years? Is that what I understood?
I think that we'll probably try to make sure they do a check.
have a look at it.
Yeah. So,
Well, if it's leaking, outside to get another bids, I don't know what else to do.
Yeah. And you can patch the leaks, but that's still not going to solve the overall problem. And what's interesting about the foam, or from what I've been sold on it, is that after you've had 2 or 3 layers put, it just makes it thicker, less chance of damage from hail, from storms. It also lengthens the time of resiliency to weather.
So are you looking for a motion to
I think
approve
so.
one of these? I'd make a motion to approve the Midwest coating
Okay.
bid.
I'll second that. What is this? What are
Those
these?
were some original notes. Those were
Oh.
not, he just gave me some estimates and then he came and looked at it.
Okay.
I just made those. Yep. I apologize.
What was that number on the Midwest?
Want
What
me
was
to-
11,300 is
You
what
want
I
me
wrote
to email
down.
that?
11,300?
It's right here, yeah, $11,300. That's to clean the roof, respray and recoat.
Okay. So that'd be my motion.
Okay,
10-year warranty. I second that.
okay, been a motion and a second to use Midwest Custom Coatings for the repairs at the Page County West Building. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Did they have any damage? Oh, I'm sorry.
Midwest
Yeah.
Custom Coatings in here. Jacob, I'll take that back. I'll
Yeah,
give that
of
to-
Nebraska City.
Yeah, I'll give that to Melissa and,
I know the Zion space is pretty wet. Is the DHS space wet?
no, it was along that front of the building is where the most of the damage was. And he said it was also flashing issues that he would take care of too, Tanner did. So he said there was some flashing that had been moved around and had eroded a little bit that caused where the foam came over. So they would take care of all of that, so. Okay, good. Okay. Next item up is discussion of discuss approved retention bonus for county workers. Where this has come from is we're seeing a lot of organizations, a lot of counties, a lot of different groups have been utilizing some of the ARPA dollars to cover this. And one of the issues I think that I had received in emails from ISAC and from NACO, and I think you guys were involved in at the ISAC workshops, that we need to be moving these dollars through in order to make sure that we're going to get the second round of the next $1,495,000 or whatever it is. I don't have, you have that total handy there, Melissa? I'm just going to go through some of the things that we've spent. Do you have that? I forgot to print that out last night. Sure. Don't need the mic on it. Melissa's going to go through our total received and what we've done so far. And then I'll present a couple of ideas.
So there's a little over it's 1,467,179 that we received. And so far we have paid 242,427.60. And we have allocated for the rest of the ARCA project, 145,263 for windows based on that preliminary sheet. That would be $340,800 for the windows. I do believe that there's potential that could be higher. And then the annex, we've allocated around 300,000 for repairs and putting the lift in. And then for Pioneer Park, 40,000. That leaves, once all of those are out, that's a total of $1,068,490.60.
So that leaves how much? Four.
So 398,688 and with 40 cents.
And of course, of that, we're not sure on the windows.
I talked with her Friday.
Yeah.
And she apologized. They're just having a hard time getting answers from manufacturers. And, but I think in the conversation, we had originally allocated or thought it'd be about 300,000. She believes, again, she said, don't hold me to it, but she believes that probably the projections would be 500,000 to 600,000.
But we'd also figured a little bit high possibly on the annex.
Yeah, quite a bit higher on the
So
annex.
probably over
Well,
100.
you're at 340 and then 300 and then 242. I'm trying to get which numbers are duplicated. Are all these, what is left?
398.
398.
Yeah, roughly. And if you took out an extra 200 of that,
For the annex, you've got,
or if you took 200 more out of the windows, for windows.
yeah, right.
Yeah. So,
How that first payment, second
These
payment.
windows are highly inflated because construction stuff is insane.
And then we also yesterday did receive a estimate for the tuck pointing for the sheriff's, not the sheriff's, the engineer's office and one other office, and they're still working on an estimate for the courthouse.
okay. And the next round comes, is it next May?
June,
June, okay.
You mean this coming June or a year from June?
this year, this June.
This
Let's
June?
do-
Okay,
yeah.
okay. So. Anyway, and just for, and I think you other two received this. We have 78 full-time employees, 13 part-time employees. That includes reserve deputies and 4 temporary employees. Out of the 78 full-time, you would have 8 elected and 7 department heads. So out of the 78, if you did all full-time, which I'm not too excited about, you would have 78. If you did without the electeds, you would have 70. And without the department heads, you'd have 63, if I'm adding right.
Sorry, not to interrupt, but the tuck pointing for the engineer's office and for the annex was 31,338.
Okay,
How much? 30 what?
31,000 for the tuck pointing.
31,338. And then they're still working on an estimate for
Courthouse.
the total for the courthouse, which is really needing some tuck pointing
Right.
work done.
Yeah.
Those kind of things are direct tax relief, because we've got to maintain these buildings.
And also we had that lighting project
Yeah,
that could
those-
possibly be switched over. And that total was how much? I can't,
20 some thousand?
yeah, 20.
That came out of ARPA.
Yeah, it could,
Oh, it
it
could.
didn't, but it could be switched.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
So that would free up money. That was coming from sales tax or was that?
right, right,
And we could put that money directly in the roads or somewhere,
sure could.
something.
So, you know, there again, with June being the next round, the tuck pointing and all that could be worked into that, because we know that we won't, you know, so we've still got a cushion probably of at least 200,000. So even if everything got done between now and June 30th, which we know it won't. Pardon?
You'd be short a little bit if you
Yeah.
did the tuck pointing.
Well,
because-
yes, but there again, I don't see any way that we could ever get the tuck pointing done this year.
Right.
So,
You'd have, if you had the tuck pointing done, it'd be about 167,000.
I guess I'll put it up for discussion on your feelings on including the electeds and or including department heads. Just, here you go. That's a list of everybody.
So I see I think Guthrie County, Southern Iowa County have done this. Talked with the Clarendon School, they did this for their employees. I guess, Alan, I'm not crazy about the idea for a couple of reasons. Number one, we went through budgets a year ago. This board took a lot of heat for a 4% increase to our employees, which was about 2.5% above the COLA a year ago or in this current year. And then the way budgets came out this year, the majority of our rank and file employees are about 3% under the COLA. And so, and then our reserve deputies and our deputies were able to get $1,000 stipend from the governor's ARPA funds as a retention bonus. I think our employees worked incredibly hard. I think it's going to be difficult to disseminate these funds to employees in a way that doesn't confuse employees on what the base pay is, doesn't confuse the public. And I would rather see the $100,000 or $200,000 that it would cost for that program to go into things like tuck pointing and windows that provide tax relief. So I don't mean to disrespect our employees. I think they all work very hard, but I just don't think it's proper use of funding.
Most phone calls I get are about the roads. And it seems like we spend more money and the roads get worse. So I want to find some way to take this money and give it to the roads. Pick some section somewhere that we said we did something. But if we can move money into something we got to spend anyway, like if we have to fix some of these things, then move money out of somewhere else to do that.
I mean, we're getting all this stuff digitized. That's part of that.
Right, that was 300 and some thousand of that.
Yeah,
And
that frees up. a little
if
bit.
we do get the windows done, if we're able to get that done, I mean, and the tuck pointing, which this
Yeah.
building is historic building, and those things have to be done. But those would be dollars that would be direct tax relief.
Correct.
And so chipping away a couple $100,000 for employee one-time bonuses, I don't know. The big picture, I just don't think it's a good idea.
You know, you guys were both there, and I know Melissa was. What exactly was the words they used at the ISAC meeting? I know what I've read, but what did they say about these ARPA dollars and getting them spent?
Well, they basically said that 2 weeks ago, Wednesday, there was a bill in Congress that had some language that would have retracted any unspent funds that almost passed. NACO was watching it, kind of sweating bullets. And then there was an initiative to recall the June 2022 payment to not make that payment. And so ISAC's recommendation was obligate the dollars because the way the proposed bill language was, it would recall, I think is the word they used, any non-obligated dollars. So that was their recommendation. And again, on one hand, you think, okay, take the money back. It's debt for our kids you can save. The unfortunate part, once they take it back, we have no control. It's going to get spent somewhere else. So we need to spend it for the Page County. But they recommended getting things obligated.
What was ever the ruling on using things for equipment for secondary roads? The final ruling, what was that?
I'm confused.
Yeah, I don't know if they've come out with the final ruling yet, Jacob.
Well, at one point they came out with if you were under 10 million, then
You could do
basically-
about whatever you wanted,
Right.
what it sounded like to me.
And with the final rule, are we still out of luck in claiming lost revenue?
We didn't have any lost.
I think we're better off because we didn't have enough.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Well, but
We
this
didn't lose
new
enough,
final
or-
ruling changed all that. So you're actually still, if you're under the 10 million, you're still basically allowed to claim what others. So you don't have to go through those calculations now, basically, they said.
And we've got a report coming up April 30th.
Yeah, we need to probably get together sometime in the next couple of weeks and go through that. So, I don't know if you want, myself or Chuck is also registered on that, so whoever you want to be here we can go through and start moving those numbers around. Because I know I put the one wrong in there for the original start.
Oh,
So,
right. Which we can correct.
Yeah, we can correct, so.
But like with this lighting and stuff like that, you could go ahead if you wanted to and obligate
Yeah,
that in the next
Yeah,
several
well,
weeks.
Yep,
and-
yep.
Because that was coming out of local option sales
Yeah,
tax, so
right.
it needs to be just flip to this.
We can move it over.
And we
to-
could take a look at our local options, see if there's anything else, because to me, it sounded like once you obligate it, then you get to keep it, basically.
Right.
So,
And we can,
I'm
that
gonna
money's way
guess
more
we can
free.
do this roofing project through that, so.
The
that
roof
will-
counts too.
Yeah. This is protecting the environment.
Yeah, that would qualify.
I know, thank goodness for
This
government.
is the goofiest thing ever.
No, it's not the goofiest, but it's one of them.
Close.
Yeah.
So what's your thought on the employee?
I
Okay.
think we just went through a budget where we just worked out what we thought was a fair compensation. And I do think it'll confuse people. And most discussion I get by people that are out paying taxes is we want to see we got to have good employees run the equipment, but now we want to see some actual material hit the road, more of that and with a balance there. But I think we just went through the budget and just accomplished
Yeah, right.
all that, I think. I
Okay.
don't think that needs to be done right now with this money. I want to use it something else.
If neither of you are going to make a motion to approve, then we'll just
Let it die.
let it die, okay? Our motion earlier about the roof, did we say we're going to? Pay ARPA funds? Would you, one of you want
Yeah,
to make? that?
I'd amend that motion that the Midwest Custom Coating fee be spent from ARPA funds in the amount of $11,300 to fix the roof.
Okay,
I'll second that.
second that amendment. All those in favor of approving the amendment to the original motion? Aye. Okay.
Now you don't have to amend the budget.
Okay,
When do we look at seeing, after we've done a lot of these things, moving it into ARP money? What money's available, kind of tallying up what we've saved that could be used for something else at some point here, later in the year or something? To see what that balance is. We're shifting things around.
I
Maybe
can
get-
pull that. You can take a look at it next week.
See what projects we could do with
You
that.
you want to hold off maybe until we get a better handle on windows?
It doesn't have to be next week. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to see, we get a
yeah,
total of what we
we
shifted.
probably should. wait,
Windows and
because-
maybe courthouse tuck pointing
Yeah,
bids?
yeah.
Because I
the
think those
two.
are two.
Yeah.
I hate doing those windows right now. I just hate it. We could wait 1 year and things would fall 30%.
Yeah, but if we don't have that funding,
Well, the manufacturers, many of them are out 30 weeks.
Yeah.
So
it's gonna
You
be
know,
next year.
it's going to be next
It's
year.
gonna
or-
be next year.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
all bubbles pop. They all pop eventually.
Mhm.
Right, but I think on some things, like with the annex, the carpet was ordered and I think that was gonna go up as of April 1st. I think he said 15%. So that was done already, but so I think things are still, fortunately, still going up.
Mhm.
The bubble hadn't been fully blown up yet.
Okay. Next item up is to discuss approved moratorium on C-WECS construction permits resolution 2022. Do you want me to read through this so everybody can hear it? I don't know.
Yeah, it ought to be read. Everybody
Okay.
here.
Whereas Page County, Iowa has an existing C-WECS ordinance 2019-2 that provides rules governing the siting, construction, and operation of C-WECS systems in unincorporated areas of Page County, Iowa. And whereas the county has an interest in protecting the county's infrastructure, natural resources, and property rights through adequate setback provisions. And whereas the county has an interest in protecting the county's road infrastructure through more robust road use agreements during construction of C-WECS. And whereas the county has an interest in preventing and abating any resulting nuisance from decommissioned commercial wind turbines through more robust decommissioning requirements. And whereas the county has an interest in preventing and abating any resulting nuisance from sound emissions related to C-WECS operation. And whereas the county has an interest in preventing and abating any resulting nuisance from lighting systems associated with and used in the operation of C-WECS. And whereas the Board of Supervisors will require substantial time to gather information and coordinate with multiple agencies for the purpose of reviewing updating or creating ordinances, policies, and procedures relative to C-WECS development, and now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Page County, Iowa, that Page County now imposes a moratorium effective immediately and for a period of 180 days on C-WECS, excuse me, permit applications for the purpose of drafting and adopting any necessary and proper revisions to the existing C-WECS ordinance. This moratorium shall not affect any construction permits already filed with Page County as of the effective date of this resolution. So you guys all have a copy, correct? Yes. Yeah. Okay. So.
Well, and this is clearly stating there's things that need to be addressed and
Yep.
fixed.
And it did a good job. There's still probably a couple more that can,
Right.
as we go through
This is
that
just
ordinance.
making the argument
Right,
that there's a reason to do it.
right. Yes.
My big problem is with the last sentence there. I think admitting that there's things that need fixed because there's harm that could happen. It should go into protecting those that are actually in the strong, they're in the bullseye of being affected by the harm right now. This permit, we've not issued any permits. I'd like to see that last part say filed, permits already filed with Page County, or just strike the last sentence. Hardin County have maybe some different circumstances, but fairly similar. Had litigation brought against them when they tried to do something similar to this after they amended their ordinance, but then for whatever reason here, a few days before trial, Carl printed that for me. The wind development company backed out. They dropped the case. They gave up before it went to trial. And I've said this before, and this is my opinion. It seems to me like they don't like going before a judge, because if they would ever, they like to settle if they can, because if they would lose, it would be very serious. It'd be on record forever. They lost based on that. So I think knowing that there's some harm that could happen, that's what we're saying with this. There's possible harm to property rights and to whatever. This needs to be in effect so we can look at this to protect everybody in Page County. We have not issued any permits. If we'd issued a permit, if a permit's already been issued, then they've been grandfathered in, but no permit has been issued. So I would like to see the last sentence struck from this, or at least changed to issued. Permits already issued with Page County, or whatever the word is for giving them, granting, maybe granted. I don't know, whatever the right word is there.
Carl, any thoughts?
Carl Swanson, Page County Attorney. Jacob's correct. He told me about this yesterday. I was unaware of it, but apparently the RWE Energy voluntarily dismissed. There's a period where you can voluntarily dismiss prior to trial on your own. If I remember right, it's maybe 10 days prior. If you do that within that 10-day period, it needs your judge's approval. So and Jacob has a copy, but for various reasons, I think they listed it as business interest, or their business portion of the company decided it wasn't productive. And even if they succeeded, there'd be a long period before they were able to do anything. Same law firm, different company, kind of different circumstances. I don't know if it really provides any sort of pathway or any way of understanding how important it's going to be with that. So I honestly do not know how that really would affect us. So, and I drafted this thing up. I took notes during one of the sessions I was sitting in on here about concerns about the existing ordinance, and that's why there are the portions in there that there are. And I think Hardin County did it indefinitely rather than for a fixed period of time. I initially thought of 90 days. I talked to Jacob later and said 180, and he thought that might be okay. I don't know. You can change that however you want. As far as the issue about it affecting any issues are or permits filed versus issued or granted, or even striking the whole last sentence. I was kind of hoping the Hardin thing would process through the courts, so we would have some sort of view of how the courts deal with that. And, district court cases are not considered precedent, but it still gives you an idea how a court is going to handle that issue. My guess is, had it gone to trial, either side would probably appeal it, and it'd be another 6 months to a year before you get something through the appellate process. Depending on if it's a published opinion or non-published, that would have some value as precedent for other counties. But again, I think it would have given us some guideposts or path to figure out how a court would do this. Given the recent circumstances with Hardin County and that voluntary dismissal, again, same law firm, different wind energy company, different circumstances as far as the process they were at. I really don't have any guidance on maybe other than I think reading through the initial cases, we're closer to having a case that we would potentially be ruled against because they're closer to having a vested right. But again, that was one of those things that we're hoping that they would deal with up there to provide us some guidance on how court would handle this.
That last sentence, this moratorium shall not affect any construction permits already filed. Is that what does the term of that mean? Does that mean when they brought in that package to JD?
Right. That was the intent there, and you guys are free to change that however you want.
But is that already filed when it's been brought to JD, or does it have to come to us? And
I don't know exactly on that. The intent was to sort of carve that out, but if you guys want to include broad wholesale or moratorium, you can. I can't give you any real firm guidance on how that might affect any potential litigation. Potential's out.
Has the Supreme Court had any of these wind cases that you're aware of?
Not related to this. And the one thing about this whole vested rights issue and other things about zoning, the two cases that kind of the cases used in the Hardin County litigation were not large wind energy projects. They were sort of smaller, discrete projects. One was like an 8-unit apartment complex that somebody wanted to build, and the zoning rules were changed sort of midway through that process. And the other one was some sort of packing plant that was being rehabbed. So they were different in nature as far as dollar amounts, size, and duration. But those are the cases that are out there. I imagine one of these may someday make it through the Supreme Court. That'll be in case people rely on regarding sort of large wind projects.
What does it mean if we kind of acknowledge there's place things that need fixed and even do fix, and then we have other people, and then something would happen to somebody if we let this first project just go? We're kind of admitting that we see a problem. Do we not expose ourselves to liability from people who live here? We're kind of saying, hey, we see a problem here, but we're not going to worry about this, even though we could.
Well, and I think any ordinance, and it's a matter of figuring out over time what things you think, given public input, need change.
I think the risk of harming somebody, we don't want to harm anybody who lives in Page County in any way, physical or financially, is worth the fear of being litigated against. I think that's anybody can sue for anything. I think my own opinion is I don't have fear. I mean, they want to sue because we're trying to protect people. I think we're not trying to hurt these companies, but we're trying to protect people. There's no malice there. It's just to protect.
Well, and you all sat through the closed session with the other attorneys to provide some background as to the various theories that these companies have when they bring suit, whether it's the whole issue of vested rights in their zoning, the issue of bad faith in that intention. So nothing's really changed, excuse me, other than, somewhat surprised that the issue of Hardin County was dismissed voluntarily by the plaintiffs. So that's kind of where it stands right now.
I would just either strike the last sentence, or, we could say granted, like if we've granted a permit, well, we're not gonna go back on something we voted on and granted. I don't know what the right word is, I'm not an attorney, granted or issued, what's the right word, Carl, if we wanna leave that in there. And I don't know that we really need to have it if we have never done that, so, I don't know that it needs to be there.
If the board is wanting this to cover everything and not carve out an exception for the existing project, the Shenandoah Hills project, you can just strike that last sentence.
Just strike it, because there's no reason to even have it.
If that's the pleasure of the board.
Well, I would make that motion. I think that's written well, it does what it's supposed to do. In the light of protecting the people who live here, whether in whatever fashion they need protected, which we're kind of admitting. I make a motion, we do the moratorium on C-WECS construction permits.
I won't second it. But that, I will not second it. I'll second this for. So I'll second that motion. You want some discussion? Sure, go ahead. Well, this resolution as it stands assumes that there are problems with the road use agreement, and it assumes that there are problems with the decommissioning. Those two placards in the original ordinance were simply that, place mats, placards to draft documents once the project comes forward. So nothing, so you're assuming there's a problem, but the ordinance is working exactly the way it was designed to work. The other point that I'd like to make, the ordinance, in my view, as is, has worked exactly as it should have worked. We had two developments that were ongoing in 2019, and the East River and Buchanan townships, that did not work because enough landowners did not sign up. This is a property rights issue where a landowner, in my mind, from day one, it still is today, and to put a moratorium of any kind on development, put a closed for business sign on Page County is wrong for Page County, in my view, and I will not support it.
You think it's wrong to look at critiquing anything for safety?
No, I don't think so, and I think that's been reviewed in the ordinance. This ordinance is very similar to ordinances where thousands of people in Iowa live around wind turbines. The Public Health Board of Page County, no less than 6 times, studied the health impacts. So at any rate, no, I think this moratorium is bad for Page County. I will not support it.
Moratorium is not saying no forever, it's just saying you need to look, study, and be
We've studied it.
judicious.
I've studied it.
How many times since I'm 19 have we had, since the ordinance was originally passed, that day, I was not here that day. People have had big issues with some things on there and asked for years for it to be looked at. I personally believe there is some hope in this thing, and yeah, maybe the decommissioning of that art placards be filled out, I guess. I don't know. We can cross that bridge, but there's other things on here than just those 2 points you brought up.
What are the other 2 points?
There's lighting, there's property rights issues, some kind of nuisance issues, some kind of there's some other issues there that even if the lighting issue alone is something that doesn't hurt them, and that's something that maybe would be, think about the next 30 years, if we do something that would adjust that and be safe. And we would maybe not be a nuisance to people who live there. That's not that big a deal. I don't understand how that's this big. We're closed for business. It's just, let's try to do the best we can. We're elected. We can disagree on that. We're elected to try to help people live here and live the best we can. Balance this out. And I do see some issues. I would disagree on that. Moratorium is not saying never. It's just saying let's make sure we're really careful, because this isn't a 1-year deal or 5-year deal. This is a long, probably one of the biggest things that I know of that's happened in this life that affects so many years. Living in there. So
all I'm going to say is that when we started the process, when John, and I think it's either John or myself, first started out the first interest in farmland south of Shenandoah, we decided we better get busy and start working on more. We worked very, very hard to try to develop an ordinance that would be positive for the county and not create too many hardships, which, as we all know, for everybody that's for something, there's somebody that's going to be against something. The tax revenues, I know a lot of people condemn that, but I also feel that's going to be very important for the schools and for the county. We developed an ordinance that I felt was about as secure as any, and I don't mind looking at the future and seeing what we can change, but I'm happy I worked hard on that, trying to read through all those, coming up with an ordinance that we felt was good, and stand behind it. Work that we did back 4 years ago.
but you're willing to change it for the future.
I'm not saying I'm willing to change anything until we get down to that discussion, Jacob. There's certain things that maybe can be adjusted. Technology has changed. The lighting system, the sound issue, that may all change just because of changing in the development of the product. Decommissioning heights. We don't even know what they're looking at. If they're building a 500-foot tower or a 300-foot tower, we don't know that. And that is something that makes a big difference. We haven't looked at the plan yet, so we don't even know if we're going to approve it. There may be so many red flags that we look at.
When we talked about setbacks a while back, I brought the point up of making it so many times the height, more feet, because that would then protect us against something. If they're smaller, they don't need as big a setback. It would also help them. It could help in both ways. It helps the guy build a smaller one, but it maybe it just doesn't. There's things here that just aren't finished. I don't think there's loopholes in it. Instead of 650-foot tower gets things set back a 400-foot tower. Yeah, but that doesn't make sense.
Well, it's 1.1 by ordinance, so it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be the same.
I'm saying on a home, the ordinance that you guys are proud of is 1,500 feet from the foundation or whatever of the house. Some of you didn't sign up. So that is what I'm talking about. The people with homes out there. It's no doubt that if one's bigger than another one, it's going to cause more of something or less of something. It's all you are. It's more risk of throwing things, get more momentum, the blades are longer, everything. There's just more risk there. So I think it's so many times high, that's 1.1 from the property line is the setback, which would give a little bit of it bigger. But over and over though, if we admit 1,500 feet is the absolute closest we want it to be to somebody, then you are infringing on somebody when you allow that to be measured the foundation and on the property line. So you guys don't see that, but I don't think you do. I don't want to speak to you, but it doesn't seem like you see that. So I think it has some issues, even simple issues I think we could agree on, and I would not want to, I don't see the reason why we wouldn't fix even the very simplest issues that we could agree on. Why we wouldn't just make this, even if it only took a month to do that, then we could do away with it. I don't know why we wouldn't. If there was one issue we could agree on that would improve things, why we wouldn't do it. I just don't see the rationale behind it. It's not that big a deal. If there's even one little issue we could fix, why wouldn't we moratorium for 3 weeks and fix it and then turn it off? Like, at least do whatever we can do. Unless there's nothing you want to fix. Then it's pointless. I agree. If the two of you don't want to fix one thing, it's pointless. Then it doesn't really matter whether we do it or not. Really, it's just for show. I just don't see the harm in it. If there's something we agree on.
Well, I'm interested in the lighting, but I don't know enough about it. And again,
You sell seeds, right?
okay, So if somebody told you your seeds have to be sold in a lead-filled bag, that's going to cost you whatever extra to meet that requirement, is that? I think that's, I have no idea what with the new technology, if it's approved by the FAA, I assume it is. I don't know what it costs. And then I don't know, there are people that live around strobe lights all over Iowa. We've got a 1,000-foot radio tower over here that has strobe lights on it. It's in Taylor County. You see in Page County. So I mean, I don't know. I'd be willing to look at it. I'm fascinated at the lighting, but I don't know enough about it.
Well, their profitability is not my first thing I'm gonna do is to look out the people that live here and for the next 30 years. The profitability of their investment is not my first.
I understand.
It's the people that are here we're representing. That's my first obligation for the next 30 years or 50 years. And like I said, it's something so simple as that. If we can't agree on anything else, I see no reason not to do a complete moratorium. I don't care if it takes 2 weeks. We can agree on one thing and then we open it back up. I don't think if that brings litigation, who are we working with? But it's kind of, I think there's issues. I can't speak. If there's not a single thing you want to change, then it really is your show. It's kind of pointless, really. Maybe it helps some someday. I don't know, but it's just a big deal. I think it's a big deal. So I don't know how. It's kind of you guys.
You want me to give a call to our representative from Energy that's been here before to see if he can come speak to us on the lighting?
Well, it's kind of like asking the car salesman, you think I should buy the extra warranty and the extra this and that, but extra coated wax on it. I mean, I don't know that again, if we think it's something that needs to be done for the people who live here, that's all. We don't need to help the investment, the sales fund. It's kind of, as long as it's something that's real and can be done, it's up to us, not.
Do you know off the top of your head, is any other counties, or does anybody else use that yet?
I know the guys have passed it. I don't know that they've actually been put
Okay.
into the
I didn't know if
window.
anybody had it installed. I don't know.
But it is, and you speak about one tower blanket. Yes, there is light pollution everywhere. You don't live in the prairie anymore. So one tower blanket versus 100 towers. I mean, all of us have looked south, and we've all looked and seen the speed of those things. And if you've lived in them, when they're all the way actually around you, I've been down there a lot. They're down on now, and it's unbelievable. If they're night shift tractor off to get out, and within 5 miles, and everywhere all the way around you. It's like living in a sci-fi movie almost. Something else. So if there's some technology that could make that go away even half the time, it would be even to nature. I mean, to just the nature we're trying to preserve. But if we pass this the way this is, if it costs $10 less, they probably would just say, forget it, we're not going to do that. Why would we? We don't have to. I mean, everybody operates to what's legal. I hope. So, and on your question on seed corn, yes, if there was something deemed that seed corn needed to be in a lead bag to keep people safe, we would have to figure that out. I mean, that's how everything works. That's the whole part of the reason government exists for those reasons. If we discover something's hurting people or could harm the environment or whatever, we have to have some regulation. I'm all about regulation. We have to have whatever is the balance to protect. So I think even if there's the most simplest thing we fix, I don't care if it only takes 2 weeks to fix it. I think it should be all encompassing. If there's anything you guys want to fix, then we do it, and then we can, if you want to do whatever, then that's fine. But if not, then it is, I'm one vote, so whatever. I don't really.
I won't put a close religious sign on Page County, period. So I'll be glad to talk about these things, but I'm not voting for a moratorium. I don't like close, I see.
Okay, go ahead and do a roll call.
Is
And
this your language?
I made a motion to this strike it. I don't, and to make it clear, just we all know 180 days, we can end that any moment. We can end it 2 weeks.
This first motion is to strike the last line, so that would be rewriting the resolution at that point. Without the last line, that'd be the first vote.
Yes, and it's for 180 days. correct?
Yeah, I think that's what.
Up to 180 days.
Up to. That's address any issues that affect this, all projects that could be going.
All projects, even those that have been started.
Yeah. Just striking the last one. Yes.
Morris,
No.
Arthur,
No. Now, you want to make another motion to approve this moratorium as written. If that has the last line.
I'll make that motion based on something versus for better than nothing. If there's anyone doing anything right now, so we can fix something for the future for anyone that is not going to be affected by the first project.
Okay. The motion to accept the resolution as written. Second. Okay. More discussion.
I do think passing this makes it look really, really sad that we didn't do it the other way, if we fix anything, and I hope we do.
Okay. More discussion. Okay. Another roll call.
Thomas,
Yes.
Morris,
No.
Arthur,
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay. You guys want to do, or we can sit down and have a meeting, maybe a secondary meeting at some point in time over the next couple of 3 weeks, where we can go through those things, go through the ordinance, and maybe have a special meeting. I know we've got to have a special meeting with Melissa sometime. I'm going to be over here for talk about the ARPA funds. We want to try to coordinate is an afternoon work, or how close are you, Jacob, getting started? I know. Still a couple of weeks.
Whatever will work out.
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm open. Just pick a date.
Okay. I'll work with Melissa on the other, and I'll try to do it right, coordinate both trips in the same day. So we'll set that up so we can sit and go through some of these things and start working on that. Also for future agendas, solar, we need to get back on work on that. I don't know if any processes have been started seriously in the county, but we need to get an ordinance. So I'll let you guys decide how soon you want that to be on the agenda. Next meeting is today. Next one's in the evening. We've got the road use on that, the road plan on that one. So on the 12th, with the public hearing that night. So I don't know if that would be good. You want to move it back to the 19th.
Well, maybe.
Or if we can maybe
evening with that road thing, because I think people.
Okay, and we could put that on the agenda for the 12th and solar. Yep. Discuss solar ordinance in more detail.
Kind of pick up maybe where we left
Yeah, I
off.
think height and bearing the lines and GPS, those kind of things were some of the areas that we need on. Okay. Board communications.
Attended a Zion board meeting yesterday morning in Atlantic, followed by a mental health board meeting in Oakland in the afternoon. motions, and I'll be glad that our board passed the roof repair, their staff, Shenandoah is running out of buckets. There's just a lot going on in that world with DHS taking over Iowa Public Health and mental health. There's a lot of reorganization. The state apparently is going to look for 2, maybe 3 additional MCOs. Currently, there are 2 MCOs that are in the state of Iowa. They hope to double that. And that creates all sorts of relearning and confusion because none of these MCOs utilize the same software nor the same billing codes. So it's a real rat's nest. I'm really looking forward to it. And then on the mental health side, in the afternoon, we had $2 million in grants utilizing local tax money in the 9 counties. That was a competitive grant. Page County providers received over $500,000. We are going to do another non-competitive program to the $1.4 million that needs to be completed by June 30th. And this will include some additional repair and infrastructure, but a lot of it is to assist our current providers with training, certifications, to take some of the heat off of their budgets. And then also the hospitals in the 9 county region serve as intermediaries on crisis intervention. And we are going to reach out to the emergency rooms in the hospitals in our 9 counties and give them an opportunity to improve their setting with a $50,000 grant each. So that was a good meeting.
I sat in on a safety meeting on Friday morning. Is that right? Friday morning? Yeah. And the department heads over there, several of them, very, very willing to help carry out their duties and do, sounds like most everything that needs to be done. I mean, as far as, I think the burden can fall on them mainly. And that's something I discussed with several of them afterwards. I just have a question here. Are we keeping Mark Schaefer on the container, or what is he still being paid for this point on, or what is that contract we have? Does it expire? What is
Is it through this fiscal year?
Yeah, well,
I think let's figure that out. Maybe just looking into that, but I was just, as I sat with. Excellent. Mark. He's a nice guy and seemed put together. But
when we put that on and discuss Mark Schaefer contract.
Yeah,
And
I'm trying to do a little more understanding of that, but after sitting that, the compliments the department has been willing to take it on and help save some money.
I've reached out to Dean Shady, who was here on the Thursday meeting, to provide us a admin list on how to get the deal done. And we played phone tag yesterday. He called while we were in a meeting here a few minutes ago. But as soon as I get that document, I'll get it to the department heads, and they can set up the admin on the tree.
Okay. That's all I have.
I went to the Sunday legislative coffee with the Representative Solacek and Costello Saturday morning. Probably the biggest topic was the EMS challenges, what's going on, even though we're an essential service for EMS in the state. They're still struggling to get revenues. I believe probably safe to say that in Shenandoah, there are approximately $260,000 that they fall short on an average year. I know that Jacob and I both talked to the Shenandoah representative. I don't know if you talked to Chuck during that time also, back whenever that was, 6 months, 9 months ago.
I think I did, but I don't remember.
Yeah,
I went over there in a meeting with the guy.
Yeah. And, you know, what is happening on the Shenandoah side is the amount of trips out of Shenandoah to Northborough to Coin, but now it's stretching all the way over to Sydney and trying to get Fremont and Page County to work together, either a levy, coming up with a vote on a levy, or some other ways of financial support for that side. And I'm guessing, I know from visiting with Chuck back at that time, Nordyke, same similar circumstances, staffing, trying to get the salaries to where they can keep volunteers or semi-volunteers on call. It's just a real issue for these ambulance services, and it's a real concern. So I'll pass these. These are some paperwork they left. I'll share with you guys.
So currently, to fund it, it has to go to a referendum on the ballot,
Right.
is that correct?
Yes, and it has to be a supermajority of
Supermajority.
60%, which in reality is going to be tougher because Shenandoah residents and Brenda residents have pretty good service. That's 2/3 of the votes. So unfortunately, it's going to be hard to get a super majority on a vote. So it's a real challenge for these hospitals where they're pulling their money from. And a lot of it is based on their recovery rates from Medicaid, Medicare. You know, their dollars back are a lot less than what they could be. So,
And doesn't the Shenandoah service receive funding in part from the city? Clarinda receives nothing.
yeah, $80,000 a year they get from the city. So
Is that right, Dan, you're on the board? Does the city of Clarinda contribute to the ambulance service?
yeah. Okay, so you guys are how many dollars roughly? I know Shenandoah announced 268,000 in that meeting. How much? Do you have any idea what the ambulance service comes up to? Sure. Oh, it's definitely an essential service.
So the legislature doesn't look like they're gonna
One of the
bypass the,
one of the things that Matt talked to Costello and Dolachek about were to, instead of making it just an essential, make it required that the state has to help tax everybody to where that would become a requirement for each county instead of, so that would solve a lot of rural counties' problems. So that was what he did, but there again, we all know that will take years, or 3 years, or 4 years to solve itself. So anyway, just wanted to share that.
so that was that the last legislative?
That was the last, and that was the last one for Mr. Dolachek. And then I had,
Mr. Costello.
yeah, that's true. And then Wabanzi Mental Health had a meeting there that they received a lot of funding through different sources similar to the ARPA funding. And they're about to finish with that air conditioning, heating system, new roof, a whole bunch of projects that are getting done through these dollars that are coming in. So all in all, it's still as confusing as it was a year ago. How the dollars take so long to get reimbursed and whatever, but they were very appreciative of the grant because they were able to do some things with that to improve some things. So they're very appreciative of that grant that came out of the region. So other than that, I don't think I had anything else. Public health before that. Okay. Approved minutes. You want to wait a second? Melissa will be right back. You guys read through the minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, is there any corrections or additions to the minutes that either of you want to make?
Second.
Second, okay, all those, motion and made in a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And that would be it. You can look through them, and I don't need them back, so you guys can read through them and see their comments that they both had, that they had, and I'm gonna guess very similar to the different. Okay, well, I'll set up a time with you. I'll look at my schedule and make sure I have nothing. I'll set up a time and then I'll share with these guys and see if we can set up a time, maybe, I'm guessing an hour for us to go through that ARPA website. Okay, because I've got to remember how to log back in. It's been a while since I've been there. So I'll do that and then I'll set up a time with you and we'll come over to work on that. And I'll try to set up the same time for the three of us to have a special meeting. I'll coordinate that with Melissa.
What's the reason we're not going to do it on Tuesday? It's work there.
We can, if you guys want to. You want to do it next week, or do you want to wait 3 weeks to give us time to pencil out all fronts?
It might take, I mean, I have a lot of things.
Okay. Yeah, and
We've got, we've got 6 months.
Yep, okay, let's just, when you two are ready, let's just put it on the calendar, because I've already started making notes.
So I've got one copy of it.
Yep. I was gonna say, and I've got a copy of the original here.
Yeah, I got an extra copy of the orange folder I took. Somebody needed, I took an extra.
I was gonna say that, yeah, you can have that one in the orange folder if you want. I've
Got another one I wrote all
got
stuff.
it.
It's like they move around like they find shit.
Okay.
So motion to adjourn. So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay.